Welcome, this is Patty Bennett, and I have a great video for you today featuring the Stampin Up Stamparatus Stamp Positioning Tool. I am going to go over several tips showing you how to make a variety of cards, tips for making these cards, and tell you why the Stamparatus is so important when you are making certain types of cards. I did a demonstration at our Love to Stamp group meeting the other day, and I went over these tips. We're going to cover these today. Time-saving templates, rainbow stamping, hinge step stamping, why you want to have a clear stamp case handy while you're using the Stamparatus, and then a solution to oops, it didn't stamp well. So let's get started. So the first feature or benefit that I came up with, which I know this is going to be a big reason that I use this Stamparatus, is what I am calling time-saving template stamping. And we're going to be talking about this little heart here. This is just a cute little narrow note card with some embossed area at the bottom and then some die cut hearts. And if you are making several of something, this is going to be a great time-saving tip. So normally you would take your image, stamp it on cardstock, grab your matching framelit, and run it through the Big Shot. You would probably use maybe a little washi tape to hold it down just to make sure it doesn't shift, even with your magnetic plate. And then once it's die cut, you're going to get your cute little heart like this, which is great. You would use it on your project. So if you're only making one sample, one card, that's not a big deal. But what if you have to make 10, 15, 20, maybe even 100? Maybe you're making wedding invitations or something. This particular technique is going to save you a lot of time. So this is the template. This is your time-saving template. I actually saw a couple of demonstrators talking about this, but I have to give credit to Cindy Wilkinson because she is the one that really explained this to me. So I've just die cut with that framelit in a piece of cardstock. It just happens to be red. It could be any color, really pretty much any size. And then you're going to take your stamp set and take that heart stamp, and you're just going to lay it right in that opening. I hope I don't put my head right in here, but I just want to make sure that I have it pretty much centered. And then you're going to flip the plate of the Stamparatus, press, and that has picked up the stamp. Now my cardstock is up in this corner, so I know that if I accidentally moved it, if I put it right back there, my stamp is still going to be in the right place. The next step would be, you can go to your Big Shot and just cut a ton of hearts, or this can be any shape. This doesn't have to just be hearts. So I've cut a bunch of hearts out of scraps, and now I have a ton of blank hearts. So I will just take one and put it right into that template. Now when I ink this and stamp this, it's in the right place, and it's much quicker than stamping and then going to the Big Shot to die cut one image, coming back, stamping. You see what I mean? But let me give you even more tips. So here's what we're going to talk about with this. We're going to do some rainbow stamping. Before we ink it though, this is my tip about using a clear stamp case. This is the stamp case that a clear mount or photopolymer set would come in from Stampin Up. And yes, we still sell these. I know they didn't make it into the current catalog, but we still sell this size, the wider one for wood, and the half size one. So they are still available. And you're just going to set it under this side of the Stamparatus plate. Two reasons. This makes a nice level surface for inking, and it also avoids when you don't have it there and you push, there is give. And I just don't like that. I think I'm going to get better results inking my stamp if I have a hard surface. And this is the perfect height. So you could just use whatever the stamp set is that you're using. You could put that right under there. But just so that it's not quite so distracting for you, I thought I would just use a clear case. Then the next thing that we're going to do is ink this. And it is so much easier to use the little Stampin Spots when you ink on your Stamparatus plate. You might have some of these from a paper pumpkin kit, or there are some available right now. This is January 2018, so in the Occasions catalog, we do have a few colors of spots that are available. Or you can just purchase the package of 5 uninked spots. So it's just an ink pad that's not inked. And then you would purchase the re-inker and you would put ink on it. And people were asking me at our event on Saturday how much ink. I only put about maybe 12 to 15 drops. And if you actually look from the side, I don't know if you can see, it's not inked all the way down. You really don't have to saturate the entire thing completely. As long as it inks your stamp good enough, you don't have to have the whole thing completely saturated. I did go ahead and label these, both top and bottom, and all I did was punch out a circle with the 1-inch circle punch, and I wrote on it. So that is so that if they get separated, I can flip it over and match it up, make sure I have the right color, but also so that when they're sitting out like this, I can see the colors. Okay, so now back to this. What I'm going to do is some rainbow stamping. So I'm going to take Flirty Flamingo, put some ink up at the top of that. I'm going to do some Melon Mambo right in the middle. And you could see that this would not be very easy if you were using the full-size ink pad. You could do this with markers, but I feel this is a little quicker. And then all I'm going to do is close it up, push, and I have a cute rainbow image. Now here is one of the features, and this is the, oh, it didn't stamp perfectly problem. I think that the Flirty Flamingo is a little bit light, so I am just going to add more ink and give it one more press, and now I think it is absolutely perfect, and it's beautiful. And how cute is that? Do you see that rainbow? I just love that. I think it is so fun. So again, you can see on the card, you have a rainbow image and you have it right in your heart die cut, and it's quick. So you can just see how quick that would be to replace it, ink it, stamp it, replace it, ink it, stamp it, and that would go so quickly. It's just a breeze to do this. So that is the time-saving template tip, rainbow stamping tip, and your ink spot tip. So there was a lot of tips in that one little segment here. And you might be asking, well, why did I put the plate on the right side and ink this sideways, this heart sideways? I just am comfortable with the stamp on this side, inking on this side, and flipping it this way. That's what I like to do. The beauty of this Stamparatus is that you could have used your plate, and it does come with 2 plates, so you could have it up here. You could have had your plate at the top, and you could come down this way. You'd just move your template. You could have this switched over here. You could be using it left-handed. So this is so versatile, and I just love that you can have it customized to the way that suits your needs. I also want you to think about that time-saving template idea on a larger scale. Let's say you were wanting to die cut all of these little pieces of the orchid stamp set. It's called the Climbing Orchid stamp set, and then the matching dies are called Orchid Builder. This is a lot of pieces. You can see there is a lot of little pieces that go into making this. So if you were to stamp some of your orchid images and then take your dies and go over to the Big Shot and cut them out, you can't do a lot of them at once because something's going to shift in there and it's not going to come out great. So you're probably going to stamp and die cut about 3 at a time. But if you use that time-saving template tip and you die cut one of each of the images out of a scrap of cardstock, and then you put that into your Big Shot, and then you would take each of your images and lay them in there and just flip this over and pick them up. They would all be on this side of on your plate. And then all you have to do is die cut a ton of pieces when you have time. Maybe you just have extra time sometime. And all you do is fill them into your template and stamp and stamp and stamp. And you can do that quickly. And that is such a time saver. My only tip for you would be to not just cut a half sheet of cardstock for your template, cut it a little bit smaller so that it actually fits in your stamp case, and then you can keep it in your stamp case. I just used a half sheet of cardstock and I wrote on it what it was, and then I didn't think about it, so it doesn't fit in my stamp case, but just a little tip for you. So you could do that, and then you could keep it with your stamp case, and then you can create tons of cards with the stamp sets that have all these multiple pieces that need to be die cut. Next on our list of amazing features and benefits of the Stamparatus is a fun technique called hinge step stamping. So we are actually going to be taking this plate and moving it down 1 step each time that we stamp. I did actually show this in a previous Stamparatus video where I showed you how to do this using this stamp on the plate, and we just stepped it down every time we stamped it. So that would be a vertical hinge step stamping. I'm going to show you horizontal hinge step stamping today. So let's do this card with the cute candles. It is also in the same set, the Picture Perfect birthday set. Because this stamp set is photopolymer, which means it's completely clear, does not have the red rubber or the foam in it, I have put the black foam mat back in here. So it's just a foam mat that you place on top. It comes with the Stamparatus. I am using 2 of the candle images, the one with the polka dots and the one with the stripes. So the idea of this, and actually let me just lay it on top of here so that I get it positioned in relatively the same spot for this demo as I did for this card. So I'm just going to lay it there because I know that's where I already want it to be. I press down and I pick up the images right there. You want to make sure with hinge step stamping that your image is within this hinge dimension. So do you see how those 2 candles are between those 2 hinges? We're going to take a Whisper White note card, and I also just have a scrap here. I have found that when you are stamping right up here in this corner, either from this side or from this side, it's a little bit hard to get the pressure right here onto your image. So I am just going to put that shim there. You may or may not need something like that when you stamp. It's just a matter of trial and error. Use a scrap paper first and try it out, and then you can see if you need it. So what we're doing then is we are going to have the candles going right down the edge of this paper. And I've used 2 ink spots for this. Bermuda Bay was in one of my pumpkin pie, paper pumpkin kits, so I'm using that. And then for those of you who have been around a while, you'll remember this color, Gable Green. Well, I found this spot in my collection and I thought, I'm not going to throw it away. I just took my lemon lime re-inker and I added lemon lime ink into the Gable Gable green, and I just turned it green and it works great. So if you have something that's really close, you can go ahead and give it a try, and you can see if re-inking it works for you. It wasn't even really dried out, a little bit, but it really wasn't. It just needed a little oomph, and so I put the color in. So I've inked them with the spots. I'm going to press down, and there are my first 2 candles. Now I lift it straight up and move it down 1 hinge notch, and I am just going to keep going. So I would repeat that all the way down the edge of the card, and you can see where the little spots, the ink spots, are so helpful with this method. So you don't need to see me do the whole thing, but just want to show you how quickly that goes and how fun that is. And then you would get that fun row of candles. I used the candle flame with a Daffodil Delight ink pad, and I just hand stamped those onto there. I didn't really feel that it needed to be on here as well. And I just also wanted to tell you, make sure that you get in the habit of cleaning this off. I have been known to put my hand in it and then transfer that. So just be sure when you're no longer needing that you are cleaning it off. Just one of those, you know, don't ask me how I know. And then I did a similar rainbow effect here, and that is just with this cute Happy Birthday to You stamp in the same set. But one thing I wanted to show you is that I didn't use ink spots for that. I inked the whole thing with the pumpkin pie ink pad. And then I actually took my Melon Mambo marker and added a little bit of color up to the top of it. So that gave it a bit of a ombre effect without using spots. So you can do it both ways, but it does get a little bit messy with the larger pads because the ink will tend to get onto your plate. So I hope that explains the hinge step stamping. As I mentioned, you do want to make sure that your stamps are kind of within that hinge area. So it's about an inch, inch and an eighth or so is about the room that you have to play with. And so on this card, I used a couple of images from the Happy Birthday Gorgeous set, plus this cute little row of starburst or asterisks or whatever you want to call them. I put all 3 on there and inked them and stamped it down the page in the same manner. So what if you have a stamp that's a little bit larger than that 1 inch? I'm going to show you how I did this card. This card features the heart from the Ribbon of Courage set, and if you remember, this is the set that I got to help design when I achieved my $1 million in sales with Stampin Up. And I have repeated this one down this little note card. This stamp I wanted centered in this 3.5 inch wide note card. And so I just measured over 1 3/4 inches, and I laid this stamp down with the point at 1 3/4 inches. You can see that lines up. I picked it up, and then I knew it would be just in the right spot. And because this is a red rubber stamp, we do not need that black foam mat, so I just removed that. And I am taking a cherry cobbler ink spot from one of my paper pumpkin kits and stamping. Then you ink again. And because this stamp will kind of nest, I'll show you what I mean. So do you see how it's kind of nesting in there? It's okay that it was larger than the 1 or 1 1/8 or so inch spacing of the hinge. So it worked, and I love it, and I think it's so cute. And no matter how hard I might try or how good I might think I could stamp, I would never be able to line those up so perfectly and get that cute card with the hearts. Since I ended up with just an odd spacing, I just did the greeting at the bottom. You could do some washi tape, or you could leave it blank. I did washi tape on this one. You could add a little bit of designer paper. You could do anything if you end up with an odd spacing. But I just thought that was so sweet. I really love how that turned out. So let's clean this off just so I don't put my hand in it. It's been known to happen. I hope that gives you some great tips for using your Stamparatus, for showing you that it can be a time saver, and also that it can help you with rainbow stamping, and it can give you this really fun effect of the hinge stamping. And it also helps if your greeting didn't, or any stamp didn't stamp perfectly, you can just re-stamp it right in the same place. So I know that when I am making, let's say I'm making a card like this, even though I don't have to have my greeting on the Stamparatus, I am going to go ahead and put it on there, put my card in here, and stamp my greeting, so that if it's not perfect, I know I can stamp it again right in the same spot, just like we did with the top part of the greeting on the heart, because that will be so great. You know, I don't know about you, but there are so many times that I stamp my whole card and then, oh no, the greeting didn't stamp well, and then you have to go find a die cut or a punch or something to cover up the boo-boo. So this is going to eliminate that. I think it's going to be so great. So if you're watching this video before June 1st, 2018, I'll just let you know that on June 1st, maybe 2nd or 3rd, I don't think I actually know the new date of the catalog yet, but whenever the new catalog goes live at the beginning of June, it will have this wonderful Stamparatus in the catalog. You will be able to order it then. And if you're watching it after the beginning of June 2018, this is available to order. My blog is pattystamps.com, and you can go there daily for inspiration and shopping links. Or you can go to mystamporder.com anytime to order in my online store. Thank you for joining me. I hope these tips were helpful. And if you have any questions, leave me a comment. If they were helpful, give me a thumbs up. I would love that. I'll see you next time. Bye.